What if I told you there's only a handful of exercises you need to do to get started when it comes to mastering full body mobility? And these exercises can be done irrespective of your current fitness level and can be taken to absurd heights if you go through them step by step. So you too can start building an unshakable foundation for your body's health, fitness and mobility as you grow older. It can take as little as one single exercise to cover your entire body's anterior chain flexibility while building massive amounts of full body strength and control. And one of these exercises is the reverse Nordic curl, which looks far scarier than it actually is. If you are a total beginner, having something like a yoga block will make starting out in this exercise a lot easier. If you have difficulty sitting down like so, be it for a lack of ankle, knee, or even hip mobility, simply elevating your butt like so can help you immensely take off pressure from those joints. And progressing from here or here, all you need to do is start working on extending your hips and sitting back down again. It doesn't get any simpler than that. And with time, as you get comfortable in this position, you will start extending and bending backwards in your upper body. For level number 1, simply try and pull back the slightest bit and sit back down again. For level number 2, you can start placing your hands on your heels and extending from here, now adding to this tibialis stretch, a quad stretch, a hip flexor stretch, an abdominal stretch, a chest and deltoid stretch as well, basically taking care of our entire anterior chain all the way through our biceps as well. And very importantly, so we can start working on the strength aspect as well, flexing our posterior chain as hard as we can so we can start activating those muscles as well. And sitting back down again. And taking it to the next level from here, as your anterior chain flexibility increases, you want to start moving down onto your elbows very carefully. And here is the most important part. We are always actively flexing our glutes, our spinal erectors and our biceps femoris to push up as far as we can, lengthen as much as we can. And from here, extending, sitting back down, and repeating. Extend from here, lower down carefully, hold for a second or two, move back up, and sit back down. In between repetitions, you can simply fold forward, relax, take off any pressure you might feel before you move into the next repetition. And as you progress, you will move from down on your elbows, carefully, slowly, down with your shoulders, place them on the floor, hold for a couple of seconds, and then, with assistance from your hands, until you develop the necessary strength, you can start raising back onto your elbows, extending your arms, and releasing before you move back down carefully, with as much assistance as you need, before you lay down, hold for a couple of seconds again, and repeat. This is not just useful for making it easier, but can also be used to make it a little bit more difficult, because placing it right where we had it before and moving back down onto the lowest level will actively force us into more and more of an arch, maximizing the amount of flexibility we're building in our hip flexors if we lack the necessary strength in our glutes to raise up by ourselves. Talk about the nuances of a yoga block. And now you can start working on the reverse Nordic curl by simply doing a very short range of motion movement and reversing a somewhat longer range of motion movement and reversing, and carefully, slowly, over time, work your way lower and lower and lower until you can lay down all the way, back, flat, and reverse. And working on this single exercise can help you open up a whole myriad of more advanced mobility exercises that focus on the same thing, such as the very beloved back bridge, or if you want to add even more strength and dynamic movements, the back bridge push-up, like so. This video is sponsored by you. Liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and watching the whole thing to the end, hell, maybe even leaving a comment, is all the sponsorship I need. And this tiny bit of engagement gives me a lot of energy to make even more of those videos for your benefit and mine. While taking care of posterior chain flexibility can be as simple as working on a classic forward fold, opening up every single muscle in our backside. there are a few tweaks we can make to make this far more accessible and effective. There is a reason why the downward dog has been used for practically thousands of years in the yoga space and is still one of my favorite exercises because it is absolutely amazing at not just opening up your entire posterior chain in your lower body, but it can also help you start building a lot of strength in your upper body and, most importantly, overhead mobility for your arms and shoulders as you progress into a lower and lower puppy pose, like so. We're gonna start out in a standing position and place our hands onto any sort of elevation you might have at home, be it your chair, your couch, your desk, whatever. Keep your feet shoulder width apart, just for now. And all we want to do is simply switch into spinal extension as far as we can, starting to stretch our posterior chain, starting surrounding our glutes through our biceps femoris down all the way to our gastric and soleus, and increase that stretch by pushing our hips forward and then reversing into as much extension as we can and pushing our hips backwards. Once you get more comfortable in moving through this movement pattern dynamically, we can start increasing the stretch by either lowering our hands and moving backwards with our feet. Once again, extending our back, pushing our hips backwards, and now adding a lot of anterior chain flexibility for our upper body as well. Or if that puts too much pressure on your joint and you experience any sort of pain, work on holding this extended position with your back and your legs for up to 30 seconds. And while your hips are all the way back here, try and work through spinal flexion by rounding your back and flexing your abdominals back into spinal extension and working on your pelvic tilt capabilities until you develop more and more strength, control, and flexibility. And then switch into a lower position with your knees on the floor and start extending your back from here, now opening up your anterior chain in your upper body. And over time, this will make it a lot easier to progress to the same exercise on the floor, raising our knees and pushing our hips back, extending in our spine. There's only a handful of things still missing so we can cover our entire body. Now, for those of you who frequent this channel, you're probably getting sick of me talking about the Cossack squat. However, I have some new things for you as well. Don't worry about it. The Cossack squat is simply amazing at helping us open up our hips even more when it comes to moving apart with our legs, working on our adductors and growing flexibility in general, adding massive amounts of posterior chain flexibility as well, and helping us with not just lower body strength, but also full body control and balance, because once we start moving onto our toes, we're going to require a lot of it to keep us from falling over, forward or backwards, or simply losing balance. And here's a very simple progression you can follow so we can take this to its maximum level and to some amazing exercises that will cover your entire body. And your very first goal is simply working your way down with feet parallel and flat until you can bring your hip joint all the way down to knee height with an extended back, a lot of adductor flexibility and massive amounts of strength, especially from our glutes, to pull our knees outwards and open up our hips. And once you are very comfortable in this level, which you can, by the way, you can work on with assistance as well until you feel comfortable enough to remove it and work on it by yourself. This assistant thing goes for all the variations we're going to go through. And your next level being sitting down all the way with your feet still parallel, still flat, which is going to maximize ankle mobility, maximize adductor flexibility until you feel very comfortable doing so. And then we're going to start with the next level, raising our heel and now moving into external rotation in our hip joint, now shifting from an adductor stretch more into a hamstring stretch or a posterior chain stretch, and adding a lot of balance, which in turn is going to add a lot of core engagement as well and increase the strength and the engagement we need from all of those tiny muscles in our feet to help us from falling backwards or forward. And then we can shift from not just working on posterior chain flexibility, also adding anterior chain flexibility, bringing our knee down and now pushing forward, flexing our glutes, lengthening our adductors combined with our hip flexors and our quads, and then working on the strength and control to reverse out of this without assistance, like so, repeating on the other side, or if necessary, once again, you will start with some assistance and make this a whole lot easier on yourself. And now comes one of the most fun parts, because our spine doesn't just flex and extend forward, but we also have some lateral flexion going on, which means now that we are able to bring our knee down and our hip forward, with our hands behind our head, we will start flexing laterally in our spine, pushing our hips back slightly, and we want to touch down with our elbow, just like so, lengthening the entire side here, moving through our lats into our delts and our triceps as well. And then doing the same thing with the other elbow towards the other knee. And you can either repeat this a handful of times down here, or you can move through an entire repetition like so, knee down, and do the same thing on the other side, left and right, reverse and repeat on the other side. An absolutely amazing exercise for full body mobility, which we can add one more immense benefit to, this time through spinal rotation. Carefully, take your time, push forward, lengthen your anterior chain first, push back, move into lateral flexion to the left, carefully, back into flexion to the right, and then we're gonna add some rotation, left side, right side, working on our obliques, our spinal erectors, and our transverse abdominis before we reverse. Repeat on the other side. Down, extend first, push back, move laterally to the right, laterally to the left, add some rotation, left, right, and for those of you who want to work on even more advanced mobility exercises, we will combine, once again, spinal rotation with extension and lateral flexion all in one single movement. Once again, with our Cossack squat as a foundation, and this time our hand always moves behind the extended leg, crossing over like so, and now maximizing posterior chain strength with anterior chain flexibility, with complete rotation in our spine, extension in our spine, lateral flexion in our spine, holding for a handful of seconds, and now carefully, requiring a lot of strength from our core, a lot of balance, and a lot of strength in our lower body, to reverse and repeat on the other side. All the way up, hold for a handful of seconds, push through into as much of a rotation as you can, and repeat. All the way up, all the way down, and have some fun with it. Because the more you can enjoy going through those exercises, the more likely you will repeat them, and the better you're gonna feel. And there you go. If you can work on those 3 exercises routinely, go through them step by step, work your way up to the most advanced version of the ones that I've shown, you will be absolutely amazed at what your body is capable of, irrespective of your current age and irrespective of how you feel right now. With that said, sadly, that's all the time I've left for you today. However, we do stuff like that very, very frequently, which means that I'll very likely see you soon. So until then, have a good one. Captain Cairo. Peace out.